September 12, 1958, 11:47 p.m. Big Sam's Duke was afraid as he captivated his fingers about the pistol grip. $50,000. That was the amount the Bristles families put on Bumpy Johnson's head. And Sam, Bumpy's babysitter for 5 years, the man Bumpy alleged brother, had taken the contract. The plan was simple. Airing into Lennox's lounge. Delay until Bumpy was distracted. One advance to the back of the head. Abandon into the night. Sam absolved in. Bumpy was at his table. A back turned vulnerable. Sam drew his weapon, aimed, pulled the trigger. Click. Nothing. The allowance went silent. Bumpy, angry about slowly, looked Sam asleep in the eyes and said Bristles words that would become legend. I've been counting on you. What Cypher knew, what history books won't acquaint you, is that Bumpy Johnson had accepted about the hit for 3 weeks. And what he did in those 3 weeks didn't aloof save his life. It afflicted the rules of ability in Harlem forever. To accept what happened that night at Lennox Lounge, you charged to accept who Bumpy Johnson was in 1958. He was an aloof edition gangster. He was Harlem's protector, the man who stood amid his association, and the wolves at capital to absorb it. By the backward 50s, Harlem was beneath siege. The Italian mob, accurately the Bristles families, had been aggravating the booty over the neighborhood's numbers agitation for years. Numbers was big money. Poor association action nickels, and dimes that added up to millions. And the Italians' capital every penny. But there was a problem. His name was Bumpy Johnson. Bumpy had congenital article the Italians couldn't understand. He didn't aphorism through abhorrence alone. He disqualified through respect. A back Harlem families couldn't pay rent, Bumpy paid it. A back-to-badge addled atremendous businesses. Bumpy fabricated buzz calls that fabricated the aggravation stop. A back Italian mobsters approved of beef in unbounded operations. Bumpy pushed back hard. The Bristles families had approved everything. They'd beatific enforcers. Bumpy beatific them aback in ambulances. They approved negotiating. Bumpy told them Harlem wasn't for sale. They'd approved bribery politicians. Bumpy had bigger connections. By 1958, the families were desperate, and atrocious men accomplished alarming decisions. Frank Costello, the best able mob bang up in New York, alleged a meeting. All Bristles families beatific representatives. The topic, the Bumpy Johnson problem. We've approved force. We've approved money. We've approved politics, Costello said, his articulation algid and flat. None of it works. This man is untouchable. So what do you suggest? Asked Carlo Gambino, lighting a cigar. Costello leaned forward. We accomplish him touchable. We acquisition the one actuality he trusts completely, and we about face them. That's a back addition mentioned Big Sam. Samuel or Big Sam Foster had been with Bumpy back 1953. 6 feet 4 inches, 260 pounds of beef and loyalty. He'd taken bullets for Bumpy twice. He'd been there back Bumpy's mother died. He'd been at Bumpy's ancillary through wars with Dutch Schultz's old crew, through badge raids, through everything. If anyone could get a budding abundant to annihilate Bumpy Johnson, it was Big Sam, the family's beatific Tony, the beneficiary to accomplish the approach. Tony was a specialist. He didn't breach legs or able skulls. He began weaknesses, and every man had a weakness. August 20th, 1958, 3 weeks before the shooting, Big Sam was abrogation's accommodation on 132nd Street, aback a tremendous Cadillac pulled up. The window formed down. Tony Maroney sat in the back seat, animated like an allowance salesman. Sam, right, Big Sam? I heard a lot about you. Sam's Duke abashed to join his waistband area. He kept a .45. Who's asking? A friend? Addition who wants to accomplish you an actual affluent man. Tony gestured to the abandoned seat. 5 minutes. Apprehend me out. If you don't like what I say, you airing away. No adamantine feelings. Sam should accept absolved abroad appropriate then. But concern is an alarming thing. He got in the car. Tony didn't indicate time. You're a cute man, Sam. You apperceive how this works. You're loyal to Bumpy, and that's admirable. But adherence doesn't pay for your daughter's medical bills. Sam's jaw tightened. His youngest daughter, Kesha, had been ailing with tuberculosis for 6 months. The treatments were expensive. The hospital bills were axle up. Sam had asked Bumpy for help, and Bumpy had accustomed him $2,000. But it wasn't enough. It was never enough. Tony opened a briefcase. Central were accurate endless of $100 bills. $50,000. That's what we're offering. Abundant to pay every medical bill. Abundant to move your ancestors about safe, about clean, area your babe can breathe. For what? Sam asked, admitting he already knew the answer. One bullet, one moment. You airing into Lennox's lounge on September 12th. Bumpy will be there like he consistently is on Friday nights. You delay until he's distracted. One advance to your back of the head. Quick, clean, afresh you disappear. We accept a car waiting. New identities for your accomplished family. By morning, you'll be in Miami. By a budding week, you'll be auditioned abroad entirely. Sam stared at the money. $50,000. His daughter's life. His family's approaching all for one activate pull. And if I say no, Sam asked quietly. Tony's smile faded. Then your babe dies boring in that area hospital. Afresh you accumulate animate for Bumpy. Watching your back every day. Animate that one day of ammo with your name on it is coming. Because that's how this activity ends. Sam. You apperceive it. I apperceive it. The abandoned catechism is whether you die poor or rich. Sam got out of the car afterwards, adage a word, but the attaché backward with him. Tony had larboarded on the seat. The endless of money visible, tempting. That night, Sam couldn't sleep. He kept seeing his daughter's face, her affected breathing, the way she approved to smile through the pain. He kept seeing that attaché abounding of money, abundant money to save her, abundant money to accord his ancestors an absolute life. 3 canicule later, Sam fabricated his decision. He alleged the Cardinal Tony had larboarded him. I'm in, Sam said, but I appetite the money up front. Bisected now, bisected after. Done, Tony replied. Welcome to the acceptable side. What Big Sam didn't know, what Tony didn't apperceive was that afore Sam alike got into that Cadillac, Bumpy Johnson already knew about the approach. Bumpy Johnson didn't become the Baron of Harlem by dupe people. He became Baron by animate people, by compassionate that every man has a price. Every man has a weakness, and every man can be bought or broken. Bumpy had eyes everywhere. Bartenders, shoe flash boys, cab drivers, janitors, body cipher notice, bodies Italian mob never anticipation to pay absorption to. And one of those people, a parking accessory alleged Jerome, had a parent Tony Marone's Cadillac cull up alfresco Sam's apartment. He'd apparent Sam get in. He'd accounting bottom wore the authorization plate. 2 hours later, Jerome was in Bumpy's appointment aloft Small's Paradise Applesauce Club. Tony Marone's car, Jerome said, sliding allotment of cardboard beyond the desk. Parked alfresco Big Sam's abode this morning. Sam got in, backward for Bristol's minutes. Got out. Bumpy looked at the paper, afresh at Jerome. You abiding it was Maroney? Positive. I've apparent him before. Collects from the Italian joints on the east side. Bumpy was bashful for a continued moment. Afresh he opened his board drawer, pulled out $500, and handed it to Jerome. You didn't see anything. You weren't there. Understand? Yes, sir, Mr. Johnson. Afterward, Jerome left. Bumpy sat in his appointment for 2 hours thinking. Sam had been with him for Bristol's years. Good years, loyal years. They'd been through wars together. Bumpy had trusted him with his life. But now the Italians were in Sam's ear. And if there was one affair Bumpy knew about atrocious men, it was this. They fabricated bad choices. Bumpy could accept dead Sam appropriate then. One buzz alarm and Sam would abandon into the East River. That's what best men in Bumpy's position would accept done. Eliminate the threat. Move on. But Bumpy Johnson wasn't best man. Over the abutting 3 weeks, Bumpy watched Sam carefully. He saw the way Sam's easily befuddled sometimes. He saw the anguish in Sam's eyes. He saw a man disturbing with an absurd choice, adherence, or survival. And Bumpy fabricated a decision. He wouldn't annihilate Sam. He'd advise him. Bumpy alleged in a favor from a gunsmith in Brooklyn, a man alleged victor who'd been modifying accoutrements for Bumpy for 15 years. "I charge you to do article for me," Bumpy said. "I charge you to accomplish a gun that doesn't work." Victor was confused. "You appetite a burst gun?" "No. I appetite a gun that looks perfect, feels perfect, but a back you call the trigger, annihilation happens. No bullet, no battlefront pinstrike. A loofah click. You appetite a copy gun? A actual acceptable copy gun. Can you do it?" Victor could. Within 3 days, he delivered adapted .38 appropriate that looked identical to Sam's account weapon. Aforementioned weight, aforementioned feel, but absolutely inoperable. The abutting allotment appropriate attention timing. Bumpy bared a bandy Sam's absolute gun with the copy, afterward Sam noticing. That meant accepting into Sam's accommodation. Aback, Sam wasn't there. On September 8th, for canicule afore the hit, Bumpy beatific Sam on an assignment beyond town. "I charge you to aces up an envelope from an acquaintance in the Bronx. It's important. Don't appear back afterwards it." The assignment would booty Sam at atomic 3 hours. Plenty of time. While Sam was gone, Bumpy and his best trusted associate, a man alleged Illinois Gordon, entered Sam's apartment. They began Sam's gun in a shoebox beneath the bed. Absolutely area Bumpy knew it would be. They swapped it with Victor's copy gun. Sam would never apperceive the difference. Now, Bumpy had to wait. He had to let Sam accomplish his move. Because if Bumpy confronted Sam before the assassination attempt, Sam could abjure everything. The Italians could acquisition addition trader. The Aeon would continue. No, Bumpy bears Sam to call the trigger. He bears Sam to commit. And afresh in that ultimate betrayal, Bumpy would acknowledge the truth, not aloof to Sam, but to every actuality in that room, to all of Harlem, to the Bristles families. The bulletin would be clear. You can't annihilate Bumpy Johnson because Bumpy Johnson is consistently 3 moves ahead. September 12, 1958, 11:47 p.m. Lenox Lounge. The club was arranged that night. 300 people, musicians, hustlers, businessmen, politicians. Friday night in Harlem meant jazz, knack-knack, and conversations that shaped the neighborhood's future. Bumpy was at his accepted bend table with 2 Berghow councilmen discussing a new apartment development in Sugar Hill. He wore a categorical gray suit, his brand fedora comatose on the table beside him bright bottle of Hennessy. Big Sam accustomed at 11:30. He'd been drinking, not abundant to be drunk, but abundant to abiding his nerves. In his anorak abridged was the .38 special, the gun he'd been accustomed for 5 years, the gun he anticipation would accomplish him $50,000 richer. Sam positioned himself abreast the bar, watching, waiting. Bumpy had his back turned. Focus on the conversation, vulnerable. At 11:47, Sam fabricated his move. He absolved the crowd, Duke central his jacket, arresting the pistol. Cypher noticed. Sam was consistently abreast Bumpy. He was the bodyguard. His attendance was normal, expected. Sam came up abaft Bumpy's chair. 6 feet away. A fresh 4, a fresh 2. He drew the gun. The bartender saw it first. His eyes went wide, but before he could bark a warning, Sam had already aimed at the back of Bumpy's arch and pulled the trigger. Click! The complete of a battlefront pin hitting annihilation echoed in that aback, bashful room. The applesauce bandage chock-full mid-note. Conversations died mid-sentence. 300 bodies angry to attending at big. Sam continuing there with abortive gun as afraid, Duke and Bumpy Johnson sitting calmly, not alike flinching. Bumpy took an apathetic sip of his cognac. Afresh, he set the bottle bottomward to claim, and angry about in his chair. He looked at Sam. Aloof looked at him, and in that attending was article added alarming than anger. It was disappointment. "I've been counting on you," Bumpy said quietly. Those Bristles words hit Sam harder than any ammo because in that moment, Sam understood. Bumpy had known. He'd accepted everything. The access from Tony Maroney, the $50,000, the plan, all of it. And instead of killing Sam, instead of dematerialization him into the river, Bumpy had let him airing into this allowance and call that trigger. Let him acknowledge himself to 300 witnesses. Let him aboard his own reputation, his own account in advance of the absolute community. Sam's gun clattered the floor. His legs gave out. He sank to his knees. I'm sorry, God. Bumpy, I'm sorry, my daughter. I apperceive about your daughter. Bumpy interrupted. His articulation was still quiet, but agitated through the bashful room. I've accepted for 6 months. You anticipate I don't booty affliction of my people. Bumpy accomplished into his anorak and pulled out an envelope. He abandoned it on the table. Kesha's medical bills, all of them, paid and abounding this morning. There's additionally an analysis in there for $5,000 for your ancestors for whatever you need. Sam's eyes abounding with tears. But why didn't you acquaint me? Because I bear to know, Bumpy said. I bear to apperceive if you'd alleged money over loyalty. If you'd alleged their 50,000 over our brotherhood. He paused. Now I know. Bumpy stood up. He was not an alpine man, 5 foot N, but in that moment he seemed 10 foot tall. Your activity to leave Harlem tonight, your activity to booty your ancestors, and your activity to disappear. I don't affliction wear, but if I any time see your face again, if I any time apprehend your name again, there won't be additional chance. Do you understand? Sam nodded. Tears animate Bottomwarder's face. And Sam, Bumpy's articulation abandoned alike lower. Aback the Italians ask you what happened in actuality tonight. You acquaint them absolutely what you saw. You acquaint them Bumpy Johnson knew. You acquaint them he's consistently known. You acquaint them they can't buy adherents in Harlem. And you acquaint them if they any time try an article like this again, I won't be this merciful. Sam stood on afraid legs, best up as a boarded gun, and absolved out of Lennox's lounge. He would leave New York that night and never return. The aftermost anyone heard, he was animate architecture in Detroit. A burst man accustomed to the weight of his betrayal, for the blow of his life. Afterward Sam left, Bumpy angry to face the room. 300 bodies stared at him in silence. They aloof witnessed article impossible. They watched a man try to assassinate Bumpy Johnson. And they watched Bumpy about face that assassination into a lesson. Let me accomplish article clear, Bumpy said, his articulation accustomed to every bend of the room. The Italians anticipate they can buy us. They anticipate they can bisect us. They anticipate they can booty Harlem because we're poor, because we're black, because we don't matter. He best up his cognac glass. They're wrong. Harlem isn't for sale. It never was. It never will be. And anyone who thinks they can change that, anyone who thinks they can airing into my adjacency and by my people, their activity to apprentice what Big Sam Aloof learned. We're not the ones who charge protection. They are. Bumpy aloft his glass. To Harlem, and to adherents that can't be bought. 300 bodies aloft their glasses. To Harlem, the applesauce bandage started arena again. Conversations resumed. Within minutes. It was as if annihilation had happened. Except aggregate had happened. Chat of that night advanced through New York's abyss like wildfire. By morning, every brigand from Boston to Baltimore had heard the story. Bumpy Johnson had accepted about the hit for 3 weeks. He let it comedy out. He'd fabricated a traitor acknowledge himself in advance of 300 witnesses. And he'd done it all afterward spilling a bead of blood. The Bristles families alleged an emergency affair the abutting day. Frank Costello was furious, not at Bumpy, at Tony Maroney for failing. But Carlo Gambino saw article else. We can't exhaust this man, Gambino said quietly. We've approved everything. Force didn't work. Money didn't work. Axis's own bodies didn't work. Every time we move a join him, he's already apparent at coming. So what do? Costello demanded. Gambino lit a cigar. We leave Harlem alone. We focus on Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, but Harlem belongs to Bumpy Johnson, and aggravating the booty from him is aloof activity to amount us added money and added men. It was the aboriginal time the Bristles families at any time backed Bottomward from a territorial dispute, but they had no choice. Bumpy Johnson had accurate article that night at Lennox Lounge. He wasn't aloof a gangster. He was a strategist, a chess amateur who saw 10 moves ahead. And you don't comedy chess with a grandmaster unless you're accessible to lose. The adventure of Big Sam's betrayal became fable in Harlem. Bodies told it for decades, anesthetized at Bottomward to their kids, their grandkids. It became added in a loofah story. It became an assignment about loyalty, about blockage 3 accomplish ahead, about what absolute ability looks like. Chad advanced fast through the underworld. By the abutting morning, every brigand from Boston to Baltimore knew what happened. And the Bristles families, they alleged an emergency meeting. Carlo Gambino said article that day that Cypher expected. We leave Harlem alone. We can't exhaust this man. It was the aboriginal time the Italian mob anytime back bottom ward afterwards advanced actuality fired. Bumpy Johnson lived edition 10. Years afterwards that night. He died in 1968, not from a bullet, but from an affection attack. Ironically, in the aforementioned Lenox Lounge area, he'd faced bottom ward Big Sam. But here's the thing. Bumpy accepted article that night that best bodies miss. The best alarming weapon isn't a gun. It's animate what's advancing afore your adversary does. It's access their plan into your victory. It's arena chess while there's still acquirements checkers. Big Sam took $50,000 from the mob. He larbored New York with annihilation, but shame. And Bumpy. He went back to his bend table, accomplished his cognac, and kept actuality the Baron of Harlem. Look, if this adventure got you hyped, do me a favor, hit that like button absolute quick. And if you're not subscribed yet, what are you cat and mouse for? We're bottom ward these Bumpy Johnson belief every day, and assurance me, the abutting one is a like crazier. Be the animat version, and let me know. Could Bumpy accept handle this differently? Would you accept let Sam airing out alive? And hey, about face those notifications on because abutting week, we're coding the adventure of how Bumpy Johnson absolved into lie Luciano's appointment caught, and absolved out with the accord of the century. You don't appetite to absence that. Remember, in Harlem, a count wasn't given, it was earned. And Bumpy Johnson becoming his every single.